Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the next part we're going to go into, we have done factoring normally, we have done taking the square root, and we have done completing the square. And actually, once you, if you go through and you complete the square, that ultimately leads into what we're going to go into next, which is the quadratic formula. I'm not going to take you through all the steps to actually turn it into this, because that's quite complicated. However, this is a formula that you need to memorize. And we have a little song for you to help you memorize those steps. And if you just remember the song, you will know what this formula is. And as you guys remember, we have had some students pop by and sing the song. So these are kids who learned it when they were in 8th grade, and now they're seniors that still remember the song and still remember the quadratic formula because of it. So the song goes to the beat of Pop Goes the Weasel, and so here it goes. So it goes, let me see if I can highlight as I go along here. So it goes, x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, and if you put it to the tune, it goes x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And that is the only time I will sing for you this year, so hope you enjoyed it. Okay, so that is what you need to remember. Okay, do not forget that formula. Now, I do have a challenge for you, and it is worth some extra credit. If you can, take the quadratic formula song and turn it into a song of your own, meaning you can match it up to music from another song if you'd like. You can write your own song to it, however it is you want to do it. I will give you extra credit for that. You have to record yourself, and you can submit it to me, and I will check it out. I'll give you extra credit towards it, and then we may even put it on the website for other people to watch as well. So again, make make your own version. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so that is how you solve it. Now, it all starts, though, from our equation that we normally have. Okay, you'll have an equation like this, where it has ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, and so you will want to find out what x equals. Okay, so the x equals, and what you do is basically you take your a and the sign that goes with it, and that's where it goes in for any a's. Okay, so go in there and there. You take the b and any sign that goes with it, and you plug it in for any b. Okay, that would be right there. And don't forget, it's negative b. So if this was negative 2 as b, it would be negative 2. Okay, and then you have b squared. So again, if it was negative 2, it would be negative 2, all of that squared. And then finally, you take c and its sign and put it in for c there. Okay, and we're going to go through and do some examples that we have here in your notes. So let's go ahead and flip over to page 6, and we will go through some of those and go from there. Okay, so here we go. We have the first problem is x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. And so if we look at our a, b, and c, a is the coefficient of the first one, and it doesn't have a coefficient that it shows, so we know that it's 1, right? So a equals 1, b is equal to negative 2, and c equals negative 8. Okay, so we use our formula, right? X equals negative b. Well, we got negative 2 for b, so negative 2 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 2 squared, because the negative has to be squared also, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 8. Sorry about that. Make sure that's under the square root. All over 2 times a, which is 1. Okay, and then you go through and you solve each part. So we got x equals negative negative 2 is 2 plus or minus the square root. Negative 2 squared is 4 minus 4 times 1 times negative 8. So negative 4 times 1 is negative 4, and then negative 4 times negative 8 is positive 32, all over 2 times 1, which is 2. So then you get x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 36, all over 2. And then you get x equals 2 plus or minus 6, all over 2. Let me shrink this down a little bit and give myself some room. Excuse me. Okay, now you need to solve this. Okay, so x is going to equal 2 plus 6 over 2, or x equals 2 minus 6 over 2. 2 plus 6 over 2, that's 8 over 2, which equals x equals 4. And 2 minus 6 is negative 4 over 2, which x equals negative 2. So those are two options. X can equal 4 or negative 2. Okay, so really when it comes down to it, this method is pretty simple. You just plug in the numbers and solve it. The hardest part for a lot of people is obviously the square root. And then also just remembering the stinking formula. So if you can remember the formula, you're in good shape. Again, make up that song so you can help yourself remember what's going on. Try and make it a song that'll last a while. Don't go picking some song that's like some random Miley Cyrus song that you're never going to remember. Not that you wouldn't remember Miley Cyrus, but hey, whatever. All right, we're going to keep going on here to the next example. Okay, the next example, 7x squared minus 3x minus 8 equals 0. So we have x equals, change colors here, let's go white. X equals negative b, so negative negative 3 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's negative 3 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 7, times c, which is negative 8, all over 2 times a, which is 7. Okay? Alright, now let's start solving this thing. X equals negative negative 3 is 3, plus or minus the square root. Negative 3 squared is 9, and then negative 4 times 7 is negative 28, and negative 28 times negative 8 is positive, and I'm cheating here, I did this a little earlier, 224. All over 2 times 7 is 14. Okay? Now, next one. X equals 3 plus or minus square root. 9 plus 224 is 233. All over 14. Okay, and it just so happens that 233 does not break down. There's no other way to do that, so that is our answer. We're done. X equals 3 plus or minus the square root of 233 all over 14. So sometimes it works out easier. I did go through a few times and plug in 233 divided by a bunch of different numbers and it didn't work. So and I think that's about it. Alright, we'll move on to the next one. Okay, next problem. X squared minus 6x plus 2 equals 0. Alright, so let's plug it in. X equals negative b. B is negative 6, so we got negative negative 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times b, which is 2, all over 2 times a, which is 1. Okay, let's start solving. So we got x equals negative negative 6 is 6 plus or minus the square root. Negative 6 squared is 36 minus 4 times 1 is 4 times 2 is 8 all over 2 times 1 is 2. Alright, then you get x equals 6 plus or minus the square root. 36 minus 8 is 28 all over 2. Okay, let's break this down. That square root, right, we can break that down, that radical. So we get x equals 6 plus or minus 28, the square root of 28. I'm going to do it off to the side. Okay, breaks down into root 4 times root 7, and root 4 becomes 2 root 7. So 6 plus or minus 2 root 7 all over 2. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of a trick here, okay, to help you kind of figure out what's going on here. Okay, if you do x equals 6 over 2 plus or minus 2 root 7 over 2. Okay, you can kind of break this into two parts. Excuse me. You can break it into two parts. Okay, and then what you can do is you can reduce these. Okay, so 6 over 2 is equal to 3 plus or minus, and then 2 root 7 over 2. The 2's cancel, so this becomes root 7. So your answer is x equals 3 plus or minus root 7. Okay, so that's a little trick. If you have where you can reduce both parts by 2, or you can even reduce just one part by 2, you're going to want to go ahead and do that. Okay, break that apart, whatever the denominator is, split it into both parts, and then reduce each part as you can. Okay, alright, hopefully that all made a little bit of sense to you. Go ahead and give the try these on the page a shot. You'll notice on the first try these, it gives you x squared. Actually, let me flip over here and give a little room. The first problem gives you x squared plus 4x equals 0. Okay, and if you look at your a, b, and c, right, they just have an a and a b. They don't have a constant. So your a is going to equal 1, your b equals 4, and your c, there isn't a c there. So c is equal to 0. Okay, so don't forget that when you do the work. Alright, go give those a shot and then come on back and see if you did them right. Okay, so we already got you started with the a, b, and c. So let's plug it in now. X equals negative b, so that's 4. This time it's negative 4. Plus or minus the square root b squared, that's 4 squared. Minus 4 times 1 times 0. All over 2 times 1. Okay, x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 and minus 0, right? So just 16 all over 2. So x equals negative 4 plus or minus 4 all over 2. So we'll break this into x equals negative 4 plus 4 over 2, and x equals negative 4 minus 4 over 2. Might need a little bit more room, just a little. Okay, so over here, x equals 0 over 2, which is 0. And then x equals negative 8 over 2, which x equals negative 4. Okay, there's your answers. 0 and negative 4 for the first one. Hopefully you got that. If not, go back, check your work, see what happened. Alright, we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so we got x squared plus 2x equals 15. Okay, in this case we need to set it equal to 0. So the first thing we need to do is bring over that 15. Okay, so x squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0. And then we got our a, b, and c. So x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 15 all over 2 times 1. That's an ugly 5 there. See if I can fix that for you. Alright, so then we get ax equals, I'm from the south all of a sudden, x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times negative 15 is positive 60 all over 2. So x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 64 all over 2. So x equals negative 2 plus or minus 8. I'm out of room. All over 2. So x equals negative 2 plus 8 over 2, or x equals negative 2 minus 8 over 2. So x equals 6 over 2, which is 3. And x equals negative 10 over 2, which is negative 5. Whew. These aren't hard, which is cool. It's just kind of a lot of work, right? They turn out being kind of long. Okay, and that's okay. We don't mind writing a little bit as long as we get what we're doing and we understand, right? So don't stress about the writing part. Just go ahead and get it done. All right, let's move on to the last one. Okay, the last one, x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 0. Okay, all right. Now, actually, we'll go ahead and do this one first and see what happens. All right, so here we go. We got x equals negative b, so negative 6, plus or minus the square root. Okay, a b squared, that's 30, we'll do 6. 6 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, and 9, which is c, all over 2 times 1. So x equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 36, all over 2. X equals negative 6 plus or minus 0. Square root of 0 is 0, right? All over 2. X equals negative 6 over 2. X equals negative 3. Okay? Now, here's a little trick that I want to show you really fast. If you look back at any of those, okay, you could go back and actually factor them just as well, right? Okay, let me take a look at this one. I'm going to move this over and I'm just going to show you. X squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 0. Okay, well, if you look at that, that's a trinomial square, right? X squared and 9. Okay, so you get x plus 3 squared equals 0. And then since they're the same thing, you could just do x plus 3 equals 0. Subtract 3 from both sides. X equals negative 3. Okay? Now, but that's not, I'm just showing you that there's all these different options to finding out what x is. Okay? You could also, when you do x plus 3 squared equals 0, take the square root, right? You get x plus 3 equals 0. Subtract 3. X equals negative 3. Okay, so look at all these different ways that we've taught you. They all work on the same problem. Okay, now, some cases though, okay, the factoring won't work for you. So these are all simple ones, but when the factoring doesn't work for you, then you plug it into like the quadratic formula, or you plug it into a completing the square. Okay, so that's why we teach you all these different options, so that you have options if you can't factor it, if you can't figure out what a factor is, things like that. Okay, so ultimately you're going to want to find the easiest way to find x. However, right now I want you to practice how to do the quadratic formula. So even if you can factor it, and you can check and see if you can, do the quadratic formula too, so you know what you're doing. Alright? Hopefully all this makes sense to you. Give it all a shot. Let me know if you have any questions.